F3A is a classification for a series of precise aerobatic maneuvers that pilots use for competition. Otherwise known as pattern flying, it does tend to require a specific style of airplane to be able to do those maneuvers to the best of their ability. This just so happens to be one of those planes. I'm Alex from Hangar 14 RC, and today we're going to be unboxing and assembling the FMS 1400mm F3A Olympus. So here we have everything out of the box and laid out the best I could on this table. This plane is absolutely freaking massive. Now it only has about like a 55-inch wingspan or so, but the thing with these F3A planes is that they're so long. The fuselage on them is incredibly skinny and incredibly long, which gives it just this massive appearance on the bench here. I'm gonna need a bigger bench at this point to start working on these airplanes, but when I compare it to my quarter scale S-Box that's sitting back here, it's about the similar length. So this thing is absolutely massive, even though it's only classified as a 1400mm 1.4 meter wingspan. It is just a big airplane. Now overall, not too many parts to put together here. Of course, we got our wings. It looks like we have to hook up the servos, install our horizontal stabilizers and our rudder and our canalizer, which I will talk about when we get to that. We got our main landing gear, and then of course, just plugging everything in, putting in our receiver, powering it up for the first time, and overall shouldn't be too bad of an assembly. Not a crazy amount of parts going on here. They're just big parts. On top of all that, I absolutely love how this thing looks. The color scheme on it is absolutely beautiful. It's nice and bright. It looks clean. It's not over the top. It just looks really, really good. We got an actual kind of detailed cockpit in here with a pilot. The only downside I've noticed so far, freaking little tape latch. I hate the tape latch, you know, pulling up on the canopy to release the canopy. I would just love to see a little pin. Now, obviously, I know we have some stuff going on back here. I think we could have just still found out a little better solution than just sticking packing tape on the back of the canopies. But inside here, we have a ton of room. Now, this is powered off a 6S battery. We're probably gonna be using a 6S 4000 in here. Should be pretty straightforward. All the servos and stuff are installed for us. We just have to put some linkages on for our control surfaces, which isn't really too out of the ordinary. So with all that, let's go ahead and get building.
First thing we're gonna do is install our main landing gear. So we're gonna go ahead and flip this thing on its lid and slide our landing gear into place. Once those are locked in position, we're gonna take this plastic cover here, which slides right in on top, and secure it down with 4 screws. Now we don't have an actual vertical stabilizer to install here since it's molded into the actual fuselage, but we do have to install our rudder. Here I'm doing a quick test fit before I put glue on our hinges just to make sure that everything lines up before it's locked into place. Everything checked out just fine, so we're gonna go ahead and put some of our foam safe CA on the hinge tabs, and once again slide it back into place, making sure that our tail wheel is snapped into the hole in the bottom. Next up, we're moving on to our wings. I'm moving the battery tray forward here to feed through the included Y harness for the aileron servos. There are 2 carbon fiber tubes that we're gonna slide into one half of our wing, and then we're going to go ahead and connect our aileron servo and push our wing half all the way in. Doing the same on the other side, making sure not to get any of the wires pinched in the process. The wings are then secured by 4 long screws, and you may have to push in the wings a bit to get them to line up, but once you do, you'll notice that the screw will drop right down into the correct position. Fairly similar process for our horizontal stabilizer, sliding the carbon tube through the fuselage, followed by one half of the stabilizer, and when sliding in the other half, just make sure to line up the elevator connecting points in the back and squeeze everything together. Then all we have to do is tighten everything down with 2 more screws.
So the last piece of the actual airframe that we need to install on this plane is this right here, this little wing. This is what's known as a cantilever. Now these have become pretty popular in the world of F3A and is arguably one of the most defining features of this plane and what really makes it stand out. And it goes right here, right behind the canopy on top. Now this may look a little goofy and you're thinking to yourself, wow, is it a biplane? Is there a control surface on there? Is there like an extra elevator or something? And no, All it's really meant to do is just help provide some more stability. Now, some people absolutely swear by these. When it comes to F3A planes, you have to have a canalizer. It does so much. Other people maybe not so convinced. They think it's all maybe just kind of a gimmick or for show, or the actual benefits that it provides isn't that much. But what we do know is that they have become extremely popular in the world of F3A. And one of the things that they do is, of course, help provide some extra stabilization for the plane, but especially when you're in a knife edge, meaning when the plane is completely sideways, it helps a lot of the air from escaping over the top of the airplane, and it helps just provide more stability in knife edge flight, which I've heard this plane is absolutely incredible at. So if you see a plane with a funky wing on here like this, it's called a canalizer, and it is there for a reason. And it's actually one of the reasons why we see biplanes and even triplanes become more and more popular in the world of F3A. So this just kind of sits on top here. It's held down by 2 screws. It just adds that distinctive look to what a modern day F3A plane really is.
With the airframe itself pretty much assembled, it's time to hook up our servos. Starting with our control horns, these slide into place on the bottom side of the control surface and are secured in with 2 screws coming from the top. Now this battery looks a little weird, and that's because it's what I'm using for our servo tester. This is what I like to use to center my servos instead of hooking everything up right away through a receiver, and it's a pretty simple device that's super cheap. With the servo centered, we're gonna go ahead and put our control arms on our servos and start attaching our push rods and adjusting the length if needed. Now we have a little more glue required for these side force generators. My only tip here is to really hold them into place until the glue fully dries so you don't have any issues with them making contact with the ailerons. Mine seem to be a little bit warped and did take some persuasion to get them to sit right. Now this plane comes with a beautiful wooden propeller which goes on super easy. First put on our back plate for our spinner, followed by the propeller, a washer, and a nut. Tighten everything down and then align our spinner itself to make sure that it's not coming into contact with the propeller anywhere. Once that's good and the spacing's good, secure it down with the screw. And finally, our last step was to plug in our 6-channel receiver and mount it into place. Now I decided to mount mine with some double-sided tape right up here in the front, as it seemed like it was the best place and it was out of the way.
So here we have the FMS F3A Olympus in its full massive glory that it is. Overall, this thing went together very, very simple. And for what I believe is like a 10-year-old design and 10-year-old airplane now at this point, this thing still stands the test of time, I really do believe, when it comes to the assembly and then just overall looks of this plane. Everything went together really nice. Everything seemed to fit really good. Outside of these little side force generators, I don't know if they were just a little warped, but just make sure that you put enough pressure when you're gluing them in place that you're gonna leave enough room on the inside of your ailerons here so you don't get any interference. Overall though, I think this plane looks and went together amazing. I really enjoy the fact that we do have a plastic cowl up here. It's not just a foam chunk in the front. Adds a nice amount of detail and just looks really clean and it looks really proper. One thing that I did have to do, I was running into some clearance issues with the canopy, which I thought was gonna be more of an issue, but the simple solution here was that this plate that the pilot actually mounts to or sandwiches in between the foam here needed to be tightened down more. I don't know if it was just loose from the factory or if you can just tighten that down to where you need it, but I tightened that down, kind of squeezed everything together a little bit and allowed for more room for the battery and more specifically the Velcro strap, so the actual canopy makes a nice solid latch there and I don't have to worry about that flying off. I really do have to say, going through this airplane and assembling it and just kind of looking and getting a better idea of what this thing actually is, I do have to say I am quite impressed with what we get for the price that this airplane does come in at. If you look at other F3A airplanes, if you were to go out and be like, hey, I want to get something that's going to fly very precise aerobatic maneuvers, it's going to do it well, and it's going to be built specifically for that, usually you're spending at least $500, $600, even thousands of dollars on just the airframe alone when it comes to an F3A airplane. That's because a lot of them are kind of just hand built. They're made out of the composites and fiberglass and things like that, which there's nothing wrong with that. Those planes are fantastic. But for someone who's just kind of looking to get their feet wet with F3A, you can still get a really nice, big, fully loaded, pretty much ready to go F3A airplane for the price that this thing comes in at. I don't think you can really beat it, which is why I'm really, really excited to get it up in the air for the first time to see how it does. Because if you can get, you know, an actual capable F3A airplane for the price that this thing comes in compared to the thousands of dollars that you would spend on some of the other ones out there, I think this is gonna be a fantastic option. So if you guys want to see the maiden flight of that, you wanna see what this thing is truly capable of flight-wise, make sure to subscribe, make sure to like this video. And if you're at all interested in checking out this plane for yourself or any of the other ones from the FMS lineup, you can check the link down in the description below. It's just a little affiliate link. So if you do buy something, I get a little kickback so I can keep making videos just like this. So thank you guys so much. Make sure to follow along. The maiden flight's gonna be coming very, very soon. I'm Alex from Hangar 14 RC, and we'll see you later.